rejoined Nicholas; "but you cannot expect them to show mercy to a witch any more than to a wolf, or other savage and devouring beast." "But the means taken to prove her guilt were as absurd as iniquitous," said Richard, "and savour of the barbarous ages. If she had perished, all concerned in the trial would have been guilty of murder." "But no judge would condemn them," returned Nicholas, "and they have the highest authority in the realm to uphold them. As to leniency to witches, in a general way I would show none. Traitors alike to God and man, and bond slaves of Satan, they are out of the pale of Christian charity." "No criminal, however great, is out of the pale of Christian charity," replied Richard; "but such scenes as we have just witnessed are a disgrace to humanity, and a mockery of justice. In seeking to discover and punish one offence, a greater is committed. Suppose this poor young woman really guilty, what then? Our laws are made for protection as well as punishment of wrong. She should be arraigned, convicted, and condemned before punishment." "Our laws admit of torture, Richard," observed Nicholas. "True," said the young man, with a shudder, "and it is another relic of a ruthless age. But torture is only allowed under the eye of the law, and can be inflicted by none but its sworn servants. But supposing this poor young woman innocent of the crime imputed to her, which I really believe her to be, how then will you excuse the atrocities to which she has been subjected?" "I do not believe her innocent," rejoined Nicholas. "Her relationship to a notorious witch, and her fabrication of clay images, make her justly suspected." "Then let her be examined by a magistrate," said Richard. "But even then woe betide her. When I think that Alizon Device is liable to the same atrocious treatment, in consequence of her relationship to Mother Demdike, I can scarce contain my indignation." "It is unlucky for her, indeed," rejoined Nicholas; "but of all Nance's assailants, the most infuriated was Alizon's brother, Jem Device." "I saw it," cried Richard, an uneasy expression passing over his countenance. "Would that she could be removed from that family!" "To what purpose?" demanded Nicholas, quickly. "Her family are more likely to be removed from her, if Master Potts stay in the neighbourhood." "Poor girl!" exclaimed Richard, and he fell into a reverie, which was not broken till they reached the Abbey. To return to Jem Device. On reaching the cottage, the ruffian flung himself into a chair, and for a time seemed lost in reflection. At last he looked up, and said gruffly to Jennet, who stood watching him, "See if mother be come home." "Ay, I'm here, Jem," said Elizabeth Device, opening the inner door, and coming forth. "So ye ha' been swimming Nance Redferne, lad, eh? I'm glad on it ha!" Jem gave her a significant look, upon which she motioned Jennet to withdraw, and the injunction being complied with, though with evident reluctance, by the little girl, she closed the door upon her. "Now, Jem, what hast got to say to me, lad, eh?" demanded Elizabeth, stepping up to him. "No great deal, mother," he replied; "boh ey counsel ye to look well after yourself. We are in danger." "Ey knoas it, lad, ey knoas it," replied Elizabeth; "boh for my own part ey'm nah afeared. They dunna touch me, and if they dun, ey con defend myself reel weel. Here's a letter to thy grandmother," she added, giving him a sealed packet. "Take care on it." "Fro' Mistress Nutter, ey suppose?" asked Jem. "Ay, who else should it be from?" rejoined Elizabeth. "Your grandmother will ha enough to do to neet, and so win you too, Jem, letting alone the walk from here to Malkin Tower." "Weel, gi' me my supper, and ey'll set out," rejoined Jem. "So yo ha seen Mistress Nutter?" "I found her i' th' Abbey garden," replied Elizabeth, "and we had some talk together about the boundary line of the Rough Lee estate, and other matters." And as she spoke, she set a cold pasty, with oatcakes, cheese, and butter, before her son, and next proceeded to draw him a jug of ale. "What other matters dun you mean, mother?" inquired Jem, attacking the pasty. "Wor it owt relating to that little London lawyer, Mester Potts?" "Thou'st hit it, Jem," replied Elizabeth, seating herself near him. "That Potts means to visit thy grandmother to morrow." "Well," said Jem, grimly. "And arrest her," pursued Elizabeth. "Easily said," laughed Jem, scornfully, "but no quite so easily done." "No, no quite, Jem," responded Elizabeth, joining in the laugh, "'specially when the owd dame's prepared, as she win be now." "Potts may set out o' that journey, boh he winna come back again," remarked Jem, in a sombre tone. "Wait till yo'n seen your grandmother afore you do out, lad," said Elizabeth. "Ay, wait," added a voice. "What's that?" demanded Jem, laying down his knife and fork. Elizabeth did not answer in words, but her significant looks were quite response enough for her son. "Os you win, mother," he said, in an altered tone. After a pause employed in eating, he added, "Did Mistress Nutter put many questions to you about Alizon?" "More nor enough, lad," replied Elizabeth; "for what had I to tell her? She praised her beauty, and said how unlike she were to Jennet and thee, lad, and wondered how I come to have such a daughter, and many other things beside. And what could I say to it, except—" "Except what, mother?" "Except she were my child just as much as Jennet and thee." "Humph!" exclaimed Jem. "Humph!" echoed the voice that had previously spoken. Jem looked at his mother, and took a long pull at the ale jug. "Any more messages to Malkin Tower?" he asked, getting up. "Nay, mother will understand," replied Elizabeth. "Bid her be on her guard for th' enemies abroad." "Meaning Potts?" said Jem. "Meaning Potts," answered the voice. "Strange echoes here," said Jem, looking round suspiciously. At this moment Tib came from under a piece of furniture, where he had apparently been lying, and rubbed himself familiarly against his legs. "Yo needna be so feared of owt happening to ye, mother," said Jem, patting the cat's back. "Tib win take care on yo." "Ay, ay," replied Elizabeth, bending down to pat him. "He's a trusty cat." But the ill tempered animal would not be propitiated, but erected his back, and menaced her with his claws. "Yo han offended him, mother," said Jem. "One word afore I part. Are yo quite sure Potts didna overhear your conversation with Mistress Nutter?" "Why do you ask, Jem?" she replied. "For something the knave threw out to Squire Nicholas just now," rejoined Jem. "He said he'd another case of witchcraft nearer home. What could he mean?" "What, indeed?" cried Elizabeth, quickly. "Look at Tib!" exclaimed her son. As he spoke, the cat sprang towards the inner door, and scratched violently against it. Elizabeth immediately raised the latch, and found Jennet behind it, with a face like scarlet. "Yo'n been listening, you young eavesdropper," cried Elizabeth, boxing her ears soundly. "Take that for your pains, and that." "Touch me again, and Master Potts shall know all I heerd," said the little girl, repressing her tears. Elizabeth regarded her angrily, but the looks of the child were so spiteful that she did not dare to strike her. She glanced, too, at Tib, but the uncertain cat was now rubbing himself in the most friendly manner against Jennet. "Yo shan pay for this, lass, presently," said Elizabeth. "Best na provoke me, mother," rejoined Jennet, in a determined tone. "If yo dun, our secrets shan out. I know why Jem's going to Malkin Tower to neet, and why yo're afeared o' Master Potts." "Howd thy tongue, or ey'n choke thee, little pest," cried her mother, fiercely. Jennet replied with a mocking laugh, while Tib rubbed against her more fondly than ever. "Leave her alone," interposed Jem, "and now I mun be off. So fare ye weel, mother, and yo too, Jennet." And with this he put on his cap, seized his cudgel, and quitted the cottage. CHAPTER VII.